Hi everyone. So in this video, we are going to take a look at project management automation using Power Automate and SharePoint. I have taken a very general scenario where we have multiple projects in our organization and we have to maintain their documents in some places like Teams library or you can say SharePoint library. So for this example, I have taken a SharePoint document library as an example. The scenario here is every organization has some client list. So for every client, there are multiple projects associated. As you can see on this screen, so there is a client one, and we have the multiple projects associated, like project 1, 2, 3. And for client two, there are n number of projects, right? So there is a relationship between like 1 to n relationship between clients and project. So for every project, we have to maintain some set of documents, right? So if you create any project for a specific client, you will need to have a separate project folder for that project, and in that folder you are going to put some nested folders, like you can place the mockups, you can place SOWs, LLD documents, project plans, all these things, right? But if you think about creating all these documents and process folders manually, it will take a lot of time. So what we are going to do, we are going to generate a Power Automate flow for that. So what it will do, whenever the new project will get added, our Power Automate flow will get triggered. Then it will create a new folder in our SharePoint document library. Then we are going to use the access control as well, because let's say there are multiple projects, but project members should access only project they are associated, right? So let's say there are project 1 and 2. So project 1 member cannot access the files and folders of the project 2. So that thing also we are going to do with Power Automate. So let's move to our SharePoint site. So this is my client list. This is the dummy data I have used for the client information. You can have more columns as per your need. It has client title, then we have the client email address, then what is the industry, address and billing information. For projects, I have taken a project list. In that project list, I am using a lookup column which is associated with our client list, so that we can select the client and we can select the project. And a basic columns like project title, we have project team member, which is a multi people picker. So start date, end date, these are the date fields, budget and notes, these are just a single line text field. So let's move to our Power Automate and create a new flow. We are going to use automated cloud flow because whenever the item get added in SharePoint list, we are going to trigger that flow. I'm going to name a flow as project folder creation. Select a trigger as when item is created. So here you need to select the site address and the list name. In our case, the list name will be a projects list. So whenever the new project will get added, we have to run our Power Automate flow. Then I'm going to capture the basic informations like project name, project and client name that we are going to use for the folder creation. So I'm just going to use the variables. The first one will be client name. It is of type string and the value will be client value, which is our lookup column from the SharePoint list. Similarly, I am going to use it for project name as well. And here my value will be title column, because in project list I am going to save my project name in the title column. I'm going to click on save. So after that, we are going to need a team member's email, right? For every project, we have specific team, but we don't want every project and every project folder has to be shared with all the members who have access to the site. So for that, we are going to capture their email address so that we can individually share a specific folder to specific people only, right? So after that, I am going to initialize a variable which is where project team. It will be of type string. So note that it project team is our multi-select people picker column, right? So whenever we want to extract the email, it will go to apply to each, right? Because it's a multi-select. So what we are going to use the append action here so that we can get all the email address in a single string. So I'm going to use append to string variable. The string variable will be our project team. The value I want to append is project team member email. So here is my project team member email. It will go to apply to it so that it will capture every project team member email and it will just append to existing email. So here we have to give semicolon because whenever we are granting access to the specific folder, we have to provide email with the semicolon separated format, right? If you just put the project team member email, then it will just append the second email right next to it. But we have to use the differentiator, right? Semicolon. I will use compose so that we can see like what emails have been stored, right? So project team member email. It is good practice that you can rename all the actions, right? When you are creating those actions. After that, we are going to use the SharePoint actions to create a new folder in our document library. So this is my SharePoint document library called as project documents. Currently, I don't have any files or folder in it. I will go to Power Automate and here you need to search for an action called create a new folder. For this, we have to select parameters such as the first one is site address. The second one will be what is our library name, that is project documents, and the folder path. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a folder with the client name first, and then we are going to create a project name because every client can have the multiple projects, right? So first we need a master folder called as client name. So I'm going to use the folder name first for the client name. So this is our client name we are storing in this variable. Again, we have to do the same for the project name as well. So I'm just going to copy the above action and here I will select project name. But you cannot directly write the folder path as a project. Okay, sorry, I accidentally selected project team. Okay, this is our project name. Yeah, so I was saying that you cannot directly write a project name here because it will create the root folder with this name. But what we want, whatever the client name we have created a folder with, we have to create a folder inside that folder, right? So first we have to give the client name here, then slash, then project name. So it will create a client name and in there it will create a project name. You can directly write this action in a single action only, right? If I don't write this, if I directly write this one, it will create a client name or project name. The reason I am doing this because whenever the client and project is associated, we are giving the unique permission to every folder, right? That's why I use the two actions because we need the IDs of the client folder also and project folder also. So I will rename this action as create a new folder. This will be our project name. After that, I will add an action to capture the ID of the folder because that's what we are going to use to manage the unique permissions. I'm going to use a compose for this. and here the input will be whatever the ID has been created for that folder. I will rename the action as the client folder ID. The same compose I am going to copy and use it for project folder, and this will be your project folder ID. Project folder ID. Let's save this flow. Okay, this is not selected. I'm going to use the dynamic actions. Here we will select the ID. Okay, it's not appearing directly, it's appearing only client name. Need to save it again. Yeah, this is happening now. You can see the create a new folder project name, and we are going to use that ID. Just get rid of this one. Now the thing is, whenever the client folder and project folder created, we have to revoke the existing permission, right? Because let's say this is your internet site and it is shared with every user in your organization. You don't want every user to go in that project document list and see every project document. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to go to project document library, and we have to stop the permission. Go to library settings, more library settings. Inside that we have the permissions for this document library. Click on that. So as you can see, it is inheriting the permission from its parent. That means our main site, but we have to stop the inheritance. I will just click on stop, click on OK. I'm going to delete all the groups because in the visitor, I have access to everyone for this site, but I don't want everyone to go in the project documents. So project document library should be only visible to those members who have access to it, like project team or project managers, like that. So I will select everything inside except the project owners, right? So this is my main group, so they can access everything. The rest of group I don't need. I'm just going to delete them. So currently it is only shared with project training owners. Now come back to our Power Automate flow. Now we are going to stop the permission. So for that we have to use the HTTP action of the SharePoint to stop the permission. Click on add action. Use this send HTTP request to SharePoint. This one, send HTTP request to SharePoint. So here we need to put the site address, which is our Power Apps training, and the method we have to use as post because we are sending the HTTP request call to revoke the permissions. That's why we are going to use the post, and the URL will be. So here I have added this URL. This URL we have to use like API web get folder by server relative URL. Then you have to give your folder name path, and then this is the existing one. I'm just going to copy it, paste here. So instead of document library name, I'm just going to use my document library name, which is project documents. Then my folder name. So the first one, the folder will be client name. So whatever my client name is. Only two things you have to change: the document library name and the nested folder. So this will remove the existing permission from the client folder. Similarly, we are going to do it for the project folder as well. We cannot directly give permission to client because let's say for a client there are 3 projects associated, but it is not the thing like every project team is same, right? The project team can be different, so that we have to restrict them by accessing other project information. That's why we are going to use it twice. So the similarly, I'm going to rename the action. So remove client folder permission. Just copy this action and just paste below this project folder ID. So here send HTTP request to SharePoint, and this will be remove project folder permission. So here I'm just going to change the address, like the library name will be same, client name will be same. The only thing we need to add here is our project name. So put slash and then you have to add the project name. You are going to save this flow. Okay. We'll go to our flow and let's check what things we have did. So the first one we did, like whenever new project added, we are triggering a Power Automate flow. We are creating a project folder. So now the 80% part is completed, the client folder created and the project folder created. But what we want, for every project, there are certain subfolders we need to create. Like let's say there are folders for your SOW documents, then you have the mockups folder, say project plan, as many folders you want to create, the steps will be same. For now I am just going to use these three. So for every three folder we are going to create three actions of create a new folder. I will add an action. I will use a scope, so you will get understand like how the things are working, right? I can directly use actions here, but yeah, it will give a much more clarity. I will just use the scope as creating subfolders. I will just copy the action from the top because the action will be same, the only change in the folder path. Paste the action. So create a new folder. I will change it as create subfolder. The first one will be our project plan. What? Okay. And the folder path will be, the first one will be your client name. Then we have to select our project name and then we have to give the folder name, which is our project plan. Similarly, create a subfolder for the SOW documents. And the third one will be our mockups. I will just copy this action, paste, just rename the action. And here I will put mockups. I will click on save. So then I will explain you what we did from the start. So whenever the item is created in the project list, we are going to capture the client name. Then we are going to capture project name and project team. So after the email we got in the project team, we are going to create a new folder with the name of client name. We are capturing its ID. We are going to revoke the existing permissions. Similarly for the project name. And then we are creating these subfolders inside our project folder, right? So we have revoked the existing permission. Now we want to grant the permission to the project team, right? Because if I create a folder now, then it won't be visible to anyone. So what you need to do, you have to use a grant action, grant access to an item or a folder. Grant access to folder, let's say, and this will be our client folder. Okay, so this one, client folder. The reason I pasted here because we need the client folder ID for that. You can see the parameter we required is ID, unique ID of the folder. Site address will be Power Apps training. Then we have the library name, which is project documents, and the ID will be, I will say, dynamic contents, and this is my client folder ID, which is the compose action output. The recipients will be the email address, right, that we stored in our variable called as project team. Role we have to give edit. Click on save. Similarly, copy this action, go to your project folder ID action, paste that action below here. Just rename it client folder to project folder, and here the ID will be different, right? The ID will be your project folder ID. Project team will be same, right? Whatever the team we have set for the client, the project team will be same for the project. So after that, we will run this flow once. I will go to projects list, click on add new item, let's say ABC company. Project team will be user 1, and I will put my name here. I will create another item with the same company, let's say Power Apps project, and the team will be different, so it will be user 2. So we will check whether the folder are appearing for the specific user or not. And the third item I will create, and the project name will be both user 1 and user 2. We will wait for flow to run. As you can see, the flow has been run. You can see it got the details and it had the project team email, right? So we got the email like user 2 and my email address, right? So I think this one, ABC company. We will go to project document library. So you can see the ABC company is listed here. So here I have Power Apps project and SP migration project. If I go here, you can see I am in Power Apps project and SP migration project. That's why I can only see these two projects. Let's say I'm the site collection administrator, whether I'm able to see the different one. Yes, as I'm a site collection admin, I can see the D365 development project as well, even though I'm not the project team member, right? So now what we will do, I will just logged in with another user, user 1, and we will check what folders they are getting on their side. So I will just switch my screen. So this is my user one. It has the ABC company client and EduTech Labs client. You can see if I click on ABC company, I can only see the SP migration project, but in our main project list, we have two projects for that. But I am the only team member of the SP migration project. That's why I'm able to see only one project folder. And for the second one, we have the 365. That means both user one and user two are the member of this project. That's why user one can see this project. So we will check what if we have the URL of that folder that user don't have access to, and what if they got the URL and they just paste in browser. We will check that once. Definitely they'll get an error, but yeah, let's say this is the Power Apps project. This is my folder. I'm just going to copy the link. I'm going to switch to the user one. I'm just going to paste that link in a browser. So here I will put that link in a browser. You can see the item not exist or no longer available. That means the permission related things are working fine, right? Go to the admin user once again. In this flow, what you can do whenever the folder has been created, because it will take some time to trigger the flow, right? Not much, like 10 to 15 minutes, but yeah, it will just run in under 2-3 minutes. So what you can do after all these things are done, what you can do, you can just send an email to whoever the project team is and the project manager is, right? So you can just use the send an email action for this. You can specify the two, that means the project team member that we are already capturing in the project team. You can specify the subject like the project folder created. We will use a dynamic, like whatever the project name is should appear here, and they specify the body. You can use the ChatGPT to draft an email as well, but I'm just going to use the same. Just going to keep all these things as it is. Just going to click on save. So now our flow has been completed. You can see like we have managed the permission by folder and project wise as well. The only thing you have to take care, because this is just an example, I am just want to showcase you how you can use these grant access item and stop access item using the HTTP request. But the thing here is, let's say what we did, we are just removing the client permission and folder permission as well. So you have to make some conditions in your flow as per your requirement. Like if you have some people like project manager or solution architect, you don't have to add them in every project. So what you can do, you can just store their email address somewhere in the flow, and you can directly append their email address in the project team email, so that they will get direct access, because we have inherited the permission of the document library, and we have given the permission to project the site owners only to see all the information. Okay, that's why I am able to see all the projects even though I am not the part of it. So this was the example I wanted to share with you, so you will get an idea like how we can reduce the manual task of project creation and folder creation. Similar concept you can use for Microsoft Team. If you are using the Teams channel to store your project document, same thing you can do. There are actions available for MS Teams as well, but yeah, SharePoint I generally use because it's a very general scenario, and basically SharePoint used to store documents and it's a document management system. Yeah, but yeah, same concept you can use with the Microsoft Teams as well. So if you have any doubts or questions, you can please let me know in comments. Okay. Thank you.